Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Troy, and time for Mock Draft 6.0. This is going to be the last mock draft that I do before the draft begins on Wednesday. And this is going to be another 2-round mock draft, so 60 picks. Like and subscribe. If I get to 2,000 likes, I'm going to do a draft grades video where I grade every team and all their picks the day after the draft. So pick one, going to be made by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they are going with LaMelo Ball from California by way of a team in Australia. I have them picking LaMelo, but that is under the condition that they might not keep him on their roster. They might even keep this pick because they don't exactly have a player that they're in love with at that #1 spot. So this is something that could end up being traded to several teams in the lottery. And I have them going with LaMelo because I think that he's the one who has the most trade value. I don't know that he's a great fit with the Timberwolves in that backcourt with D'Angelo Russell, and they still have to figure out what they're going to do with Malik Beasley. But again, guy with the most value, so I think that's who they are going to pick. Number 2 is going to be made by the Golden State Warriors. They're going with James Wiseman. And like the Timberwolves, I don't know that Golden State is going to be keeping this pick or this player. They're in win now mode because they want to compete for another championship. And I don't know that a rookie is really going to help them do that, even though center is a position of need for them. But yeah, I could see them trading away this pick. If they can't work out a trade, then James Wiseman does become the guy that they pick. Pick number 3, going to be made by the Charlotte Hornets. They are going with Anthony Edwards. Check out this guy's resume. 8 seasons on ER, 4 Emmy nominations, 6 Screen Actors Guild Awards. No, wait, okay, that's the wrong Anthony Edwards. This is the right Anthony Edwards from the University of Georgia. He is a 6'5" shooting guard. Kind of a frustrating player, doesn't always make the best decisions with the ball, but I do feel that he has lots of potential, could be a really good scorer in the league. And I think that LaMelo, Wiseman, and Anthony Edwards are going to go in some combination of the top 3 picks. So Charlotte, they've made no secret that they want James Wiseman or Onyeka Okongwu on their team. They need somebody at that center spot. So Anthony Edwards, again, like the other 2 players, could somehow be on the move to another team for a player that better fits with their roster and what they're trying to do. Pick number 4, going to be made by the Chicago Bulls. They're going with Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State University. This guy has had amazing interviews from the teams that have talked to him. They seem to love him, and I'm a big fan of this guy as well. He's really a do-it-all kind of player. I mean, just straight up, this guy is a winner. And some people are saying there's no way that Chicago is going to pick another guard because they have Zach LaVine. They just picked Kobe White last year. What I would say to that is that was a completely new regime. They have a new coach. They have a new front office. They're not tied to any of those guys that they've had on their roster in the past. They want to get their own guy in there. They want to make their own stamp on what this roster can be. So that's why I think that Tyrese Halliburton could be their guy. And another thing that could be possible, Minnesota really likes Halliburton. The Bulls really like LaMelo. I could see somehow them working out a trade. Chicago trades Halliburton, maybe Wendell Carter, maybe a future pick of some sort to Minnesota for LaMelo. Pick number 5, going to be made by the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're going with Obi Toppin, a.k.a. Ob Top, a.k.a. Obi-Wan Top Nobi. Obadiah Toppin, just from right up the road at the University of Dayton. This guy is so talented on offense. It's going to be hard to pass him up outside of the top 5. He scores at every level, kind of a poor man's Amari Stoudemire, kind of a Aaron Gordon type of player with his athleticism. His biggest issues are on the defensive end, and that's an issue for the Cavs because they already have Darius Garland and Colin Sexton in their backcourt, 2 minus guys on the defensive end. They have Kevin Love in the front court, a negative on defense. So yeah, the Cavs are going to have to get some defense in there, but Obi Toppin is just so talented. If he was a couple years younger, he would probably go in the top 2, maybe #1 pick. But since he is a little bit older, he is dropping down a few spots in this draft. But I think the Cavs are definitely going to look at him at that #5 pick. Guys, just want to remind you, make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers, so every little bit helps. Once we get that 10K, I'm going to be doing a 10K Q&A on the video, so drop your questions in the comments for that. For the next pick, number 6, Atlanta Hawks. They're going with Deni Avdija, Israeli League MVP. His team won the championship this year in the Israeli League. He's kind of a point forward type of player. Good passer, good size. I see him as a solid third option on a winning team down the road. And Atlanta might not be the best destination for Deni, but again, like some of these other teams, a lot of these picks are up for grabs as far as trading away because there's parity in the guys getting drafted, that there isn't really a guy who separated himself from the pack. So I can see Atlanta picking the best player available, putting him in some sort of a trade. They really don't need any more young guys. They're gunning for the playoffs next year, if you can believe it. They think they can do it, and maybe they can package Deni for a veteran that would fit more with what they're trying to do. Pick number 7, going to be made by the Detroit Pistons, and I have had Killian Hayes at this spot for a while, but this time it is changing. I have got them going with Patrick Williams from Florida State. This guy is skyrocketing up draft board. He is one of the draft's biggest unknowns, could be one of the draft's biggest steals when we look back on this draft in a couple of years. One of the youngest dudes in the draft. He is a versatile offensive threat. He's a shot creator. He's a screener. He can fill a range of roles for the Pistons. Does a lot of the little things. A good glue guy as well. I've heard that he actually has a promise from Detroit, and teams are just falling in love with this guy. Pick number 8, going to be made by the New York Knicks. They're going with Killian Hayes. Maybe he will be their point guard of the future. He's from France, most recently played in Germany. 6'5", nice passer, solid defender, good pick and roll kind of player. Has that potential to be a good shooter. He's one of those guys where we could look back in a few years and be like, why did he not go in the top 2 or the top 3? Why did we not pick this guy? Pick number 9, going to be made by the Washington Wizards. This is a dream scenario for the Wizards. If they can get Onyeka Okongwu, this is the guy that they are after. He will start at them at the center spot from day one. Defense is this guy's calling card, and the Wizards were awful on defense last year. They need front court help in the worst way, so put him in a nice defensive scheme, let him go to work. I've heard the Bam Adebayo comps. I even did a video where I mentioned that. They're not as crazy as you would think at first. He could be the best big man to come out of this draft, and I'm on record saying that I actually like him better than Wiseman long term. Pick number 10, going to be made by the Phoenix Suns. They are going with Isaac Okoro, freshman from Auburn University. Great value at the 10th pick for Okoro. So in a perfect world, he becomes a 3-and-D kind of player. He does need to work on his shooting. Even his free throw shooting percentage, really bad in college, but one of the best defenders in the NCAA. He can guard multiple positions. He impacts the game without scoring. Is usually going to make the right play because he is a high IQ player and one of the best guys still on the board at that 10th pick. I debated giving Phoenix Tyrell Terry at this spot, but just couldn't quite let myself do it, so I'm giving them Okoro here at number 10. Number 11, going to be made by the San Antonio Spurs. They are going with Jalen Smith. He is a big man from the University of Maryland. He can shoot it, he can handle it. His defense does need to improve a little bit away from the rim, but I really like his potential and his intangibles for the Spurs. Maybe he can be for the Spurs what Miles Turner is for the Pacers, and if you can get that at the 11th pick, I think that's pretty good value. Pick number 12, going to be made by the Sacramento Kings. They are going with Devin Vassell, who was Patrick Williams' teammate at Florida State. He's an awesome defender. He can hit the open three. He's really tailor-made for the NBA and the way the game is played today. Just really stretches the floor, can defend a lot of guys. He would immediately start for Sacramento at the 3 spot if they need him to. Just a nice guy to add to that core of De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley. I've seen him as a top 5 pick, top 7 pick in some drafts. So if he can get to number 12, that's awesome value for the Kings. Pick number 13, going to be made by the New Orleans Pelicans. They are going with Tyrell Terry, the Stanford man himself. He is a one-and-done player, and he is a shooter with deep range, almost like one of the long-lost Curry brothers. He can get his shot off from anywhere, and despite his lack of size, he's a pretty crafty finisher at the basket, too. Really competes on both ends of the floor. I really like him with the Pelicans because you need guys who are going to be stretching the floor for Zion and Brandon Ingram, and you don't know what's going to happen with Drew Holiday. Maybe he's getting traded somewhere, so you need another piece to go in that backcourt. Last pick of the lottery, Boston at number 14 by way of Memphis from a terrible Jeff Green trade many years ago. They are going with Precious Achiuwa, James Wiseman's teammate from the University of Memphis. Can you really call them teammates, though, if Wiseman only played for 3 games? Anyway, Precious is an elite defender. He can guard the 4, maybe 5 positions on the floor. His offense, still a little bit of a work in progress, but he is an energetic big guy. Boston needs players like that. He's an excellent athlete, too. Lateral quickness, explosive leaping ability. Just a dude who plays really hard. Pick number 15, going to be made by the Orlando Magic. They are going with Aaron Nesmith from Vanderbilt. Potentially the best shooter in the 2020 NBA draft. He shot over 50% from 3 in college. Floor spacer that the Magic desperately need. He does need to work on his defense a little bit, but he could be a nice scorer off the bench for Orlando. He's also a high character guy. He had some injuries last year, but he seems to be recovered from that. So maybe a poor man's Buddy Hield kind of player. Pick number 16, going to be made by the Portland Trailblazers. They're going with Kira Lewis Jr. from the University of Alabama. Great value if they can get Kira Lewis at 16. Awesome shot creator, awesome scorer, one of the fastest dudes in the draft. His defense is actually okay too. One of the best players that we've still got on the board, and I think he really makes Anthony Simons expendable if they go with this pick. I would love him coming off the bench with Gary Trent, or maybe in a small ball lineup with Dane and CJ. Really good value at number 16. Pick number 17, going to be made by the Minnesota Timberwolves, their second pick of the draft, if they don't trade it. But they're going with Saddiq Bey from Villanova. I love these Villanova guys. They always seem to have success at the NBA level, and I don't think Saddiq Bey will be any exception. I've even seen him in the lottery in some of my research I've been doing on him. But he is an ideal 3-and-D type of player. Teams love that in today's NBA. He makes an impact even when he's not scoring. He's one of those guys who's going to have a solid 10-year career. Pick number 18, going to be made by the Dallas Mavericks. They are going with Alexei Pokusevski, who's a big man, but I put big in quotation marks because, yeah, he's 7 feet tall, but barely over 200 pounds. He is a long and lanky player. Just look at that photo of him. Great as a floor spacer, though, can shoot the 3. Got a lot of guard skills in that big man's body. Question mark for him, though, of course, can he put on the weight? Can he handle the physicality of the NBA? Will his athleticism translate from overseas, where he's been playing in the Greek League, to the NBA? But he's going to spend lots of time in the G League, hopefully be a solid rotation player in a couple of years. But I've heard Dallas is really high on this guy. They've got a great international scouting system, and they like Alexei. Pick number 19, going to be made by the Brooklyn Nets. They are going with Jaden McDaniels. And yeah, I would be surprised too if I were Jaden McDaniels going this high in the draft after the college season that I had. He is a 6'10 forward with skills and the potential to shoot it. Does need to put on weight, much like Poku does, but based on talent, he is a first rounder. Kind of reminds me of Anthony Randolph from a few years ago. Just a really talented player, but really thin. The question is, will he be able to put it together like Anthony Randolph was unable to do? Is he going to wash out of the league in a few years? Or is he going to put on weight? Is he going to develop his game? Is he going to become a floor stretcher and kind of become like a Rashard Lewis type of player? But he's going to be a good player for the Nets to draft because they're just looking for guys that they can develop, that they don't have to play much next year because they are competing for a championship. So they need guys for down the road. Pick number 20, going to be made by the Miami Heat. They're going with Tyrese Maxey. They love these University of Kentucky guys. They already have Bam on the team. They already have Tyler Hero on the team. Here's another one to add to the roster. But Tyrese is clutch. He is a winner. A little bit undersized, but I see his role as a guy who comes in off the bench, kind of as a microwave scorer, but can also be a bulldog on defense, you know, kind of like Patrick Beverly or Javon Carter, but then with the offensive game of Lou Williams. So nice value for the Heat if they can get him in the 20s. Again, I've seen some mocks where Tyrese Maxey is going in the lottery, so really all over the board with him, but I do not see him falling past the Heat at pick number 20. Pick number 21, going to be made by the Philadelphia 76ers, going with Desmond Bane from TCU. Sixers are going to love Bane. They are getting a steal with him. He is a high IQ player, really hustles out there, can shoot it quite a bit, already has that veteran skill set, and really projects as a good rotation player in the league for many, many years. He can give them big minutes from day one. Pick number 22, going to be made by the Denver Nuggets. They're going with R.J. Hampton, Romulus Josephine Hampton. Like LaMelo, he skipped college and also played down under, but he was playing in New Zealand. He's a combo guard, shifty athlete with a speedy first step. Does need to develop a reliable jump shot. Lots of long-term upside here. He's the kind of guy who has top 5 pick potential, and Denver really likes those kind of players. Just think, they drafted Bol. They drafted Michael Porter Jr., guys who slipped a little bit in the draft, who they were able to get late, and they're developing them into productive NBA players. Pick number 23, going to be made by the Utah Jazz. They are going with Malachi Flynn, and I really like this guy. I think he projects as a really good point guard in the NBA. He led San Diego State to one of their best seasons in school history. He can knock down shots at a high level. He can defend. He's got a really good feel for the game. A little bit undersized, but a great motor, great work ethic, always looking to get better. I like him for Utah because I think he can contribute right away. I also think he would be a good backup for Mike Conley. I think he could eventually replace Mike Conley as a starter if Mike Conley leaves next year or as he gets older. And Mike Conley is a great guy for him to learn under too. Maybe he teaches him that floater. Okay, pick number 24, going to be made by the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Algonquin for the good land. They are going with Cole Anthony from University of North Carolina. And Cole was a top 5 pick before the season started. But due to injuries and his UNC team really not being that good, he has plummeted come draft day. He is a score-first point guard, but he can still play make a little bit. He's tough. I really like him in a rotation, so add him to a team like Milwaukee, and I think he can be a contributor very early on in the season. I also like this. Cole is a very confident player, so he's not going to be intimidated going into a team with championship aspirations. He has that NBA pedigree. Remember, his dad, Greg Anthony, played in the league for many, many years, so he is continuing that lineage, hopefully, that Anthony legacy. Pick number 25, going to be made by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are going with Josh Green from the University of Arizona. They like Pokusevski a lot at this 25 pick, but he is off the board in this mock draft. Josh Green has lots of fans in this draft, so I think he could end up going higher ultimately when it's all said and done. But really good value in the mid-20s. He's a nice complementary player who can hit the open three. He makes nice plays, nice defender, loads of potential with this guy. So Oklahoma City, they're just kind of in collecting assets mode because they are rebuilding. So they need lots of young guys who they can develop either for their team, maybe that they can put in a trade later, along with that bevy of draft picks that they have. So yeah, collecting assets mode, and Josh Green can be another asset for them to collect and develop. Pick number 26, going to be made by the Boston Celtics. They are going with Leandro Bolmaro, who is what I think will be a player that they can stash overseas for a season or two. They've got lots of picks in this draft, and they have very few roster spots for next year. Leandro, though, 6'8" wing who can play with legit speed and attack at a high level. Really interesting attributes that he brings to the game, being a player of his size. He's got that secondary playmaker potential. Big question with him is what happens when he doesn't have the ball? Is he still able to make an impact on the court when he's not facilitating, when he's not helping to run an offense? Because he is not a great shooter right now. Just look at that three-point percentage. In the past, though, Boston has really valued big playmakers, so I have them picking him at 26. I would also keep an eye on Dallas at pick 18. They really like Leandro as well at their spot. Pick number 27, New York Knicks, second pick of the draft. They're going with Paul Reed from DePaul. Paul from DePaul, he stuffed the stat sheet as a junior at DePaul. He is a late bloomer, but he can be a difference maker on the defensive end. He's still improving too, so I'm a big fan of him. I think Thibodeau would really like the defense and hustle that Paul Reed would bring to the game. And, you know, depending on who they draft, who else they sign, I think he could maybe even be starting for them next to Mitchell Robinson, and that would be a nice defensive front court. Pick number 28, going to be made by the world champion Los Angeles Lakers. They're going with Tyler Bey. No relation to Sadiq Bey, at least I don't think so. He is just what the Lakers need. Versatile, can be a difference maker on defense, be a complementary component on offense. He can play off the bench as early as next year. And look at those rebounding numbers. This is a guy who's like 6'7", 6'8". I like him for the Lakers. Pick number 29, going to be made by the Toronto Raptors. They're going with Kylian Tilly from France by way of Gonzaga. So he is easily a top 20 talent, but lots of injury concerns with him throughout his 4 years at Gonzaga. 6'10", he knocks down threes like he's Davis Bertans over at the Wizards. Nice defender, is usually going to make the right play on the floor. Really well suited for today's NBA. I think he would fit like a glove in Toronto and what they're doing with their offense. Maybe even kind of a poor man's Marc Gasol. Pick number 30, another Celtics pick. This is their third pick of the first round, and they're going international again with Theo Maledon. Now, this is a guy who could stay overseas for a year or two, but from what I hear, my sources say that he wants to come over as soon as next year. He's got a nice feel for the game. He's a strong floor general. Could end up being a nice shooter down the line. Projects as a solid backup. Currently, he is being mentored by former Spur Tony Parker, which leads me to believe this pick might be in play for the Spurs to somehow trade into it, because Boston, as I mentioned before, with all the picks that they have and their lack of roster spots, they are looking to offload some of these picks onto other teams. Maybe do like, we'll trade you our 3 picks, you trade us your 1 higher pick, you know, something like that. Okay, that's going to do it for the first round. On to the second round now. So, hey, one more reminder, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, going for 10K subs. And if I get 2,000 likes on this video, I'm going to do a video the day after the draft where I go through each team and break down all the players they drafted and assign everybody a grade, if you will, A through F for who they drafted for this year. But for the second round, you got to remember, these are players that don't have guaranteed contracts. So, you know, in the first round, everybody has at least 2 guaranteed years. In the second round, some of these guys aren't going to get guaranteed deals. Some of these guys won't get deals at all. Maybe they'll spend the time overseas. Maybe they'll spend the time in the G League. Maybe they'll be signed to a 2-way type of contract. So definitely keep that in mind as we get through these players. Pick number 31, going to be made by the Dallas Mavericks, their second pick of the draft, and they are going with Xavier Tillman. He is from Michigan State University. I love these Michigan State guys, but I get Draymond Green vibes from Tillman. I think he can be a rotation player right away for the Mavericks. But he's one of those guys who you can pair with shot creators, and because of his playmaking and versatility. Plus, if you'll recall, at pick 18, Dallas picked Pokusevski, who's really not going to contribute next year or maybe for a couple years, but they're getting their guy who can contribute at their 31 pick, because I think Tillman is going to be able to contribute to that team from day one. He's not going to need a lot of seasoning. Pick number 32, going to be made by the Charlotte Hornets. They are going with Robert Woodard II. He's 6'7", 7'1" wingspan. He's displayed some shooting touch, really high character guy, good defensive footwork. He needs to make quicker decisions on the floor, but all in all, he's still improving his game, but he's a guy that I think teams really like in the late first round, early second round, so he can end up sneaking somewhere into the late 20s, but I got him here at 32 for Charlotte. Pick number 33, going to be made by the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is their third pick in the draft. They're going with Trey Jones from Duke University. Took forever for a Duke guy to show up in this draft. We usually see him all the time in these things, but first Duke player, he's a floor general, very unselfish, team first playing style, impactful defender. And if you'll recall, Minnesota used to have his brother Tyus Jones on the team, who now plays for the Grizzlies and backs up Ja Morant but they really liked Tyus Jones, so that says to me that I could see them snatching up his younger brother very, very quickly in this draft. He would add to their guard depth, and Tre Jones is also from Minnesota, so it's always nice when the players can play in their hometown. Pick number 34, going to be made by the Philadelphia 76ers. This is their second pick of 5 picks in the draft, and they are going with Isaiah Joe from the University of Arkansas. So in my last draft, I had the wrong picture of Isaiah Joe. Apologies to Isaiah Joe and all of his family. But you can blame Google Images for that one. But he's got good size for a 2-guard. When in doubt, he's just going to shoot a 3 because he averaged about 10 of them a game in college this past season. He can also defend and attack the rim. He shoots it well from the free throw line too. But he needs to work on all those other parts of his game rather than just the 3-point shooting. But hey, Philly needs shooters, and history shows that when a guy shoots it well from the free throw line, when he jacks up a lot of attempts per game and shoots, pretty good percentage, then that bodes well for his success at that at the NBA level. Pick number 35, going to be made by the Sacramento Kings, their second pick of the draft, going with another Duke guy, Vernon Carey. So he had a good freshman year at Duke, and as far as Carey goes, I'm getting reports that he has lost as much as 30 pounds, and he is just shooting the leather off the ball. And, this might end up being too late for Vernon Carey in the draft because he could go higher 30s, he could go in the lower 20s somewhere. So I think if he lasts this far in the draft, that's a really good pick for Sacramento. I'm a huge fan of Vernon Carey. What I like about Carey is he's one of those guys, scouts told him what he needed to work on, and that was getting his body in better shape, learning to stretch the floor, and he went out and did it. So I think he's a hard worker, and I think he's going to be pretty successful wherever he goes. Pick number 36, going to be made by the Philadelphia 76ers. Hey, didn't you guys just have a pick? Well, you got another one. They're going with Cassius Winston, who is teammate of Xavier Tillman, who the Mavericks picked a couple picks ago. But this happens every year. One of those seniors who ended up being one of the best players in the country falls to the second round in favor of other guys with more potential. But he is a winner who's going to have one of those 10-year NBA careers, very similar to guys like Sadiq Bey and Tyrese Halliburton. I really think he could be a good backup to Ben Simmons in Philadelphia too. Pick number 37, going to be made by the Washington Wizards. They are going with Jameis Ramsey. That would be great value at the 37 pick if they can get Ramsey. He's a fearless shot maker that needs to improve his playmaking a little bit, but really good potential as a two-way guard. One of those irrational confidence guys, kind of like J.R. Smith or Dion Waiters, but he's a flashy and confident shooter. I think the Wizards took more of a sure thing in Onyeka Okongwu at number 9, so I think they can take a risk on one of those high upside guys with Ramsey at 37. Pick number 38, going to be made by the New York Knicks. They are going with Isaiah Stewart, teammate of Jaden McDaniels, who was taken earlier in the first round. Isaiah Stewart, though, muscular big man, just plays his tail off, possesses one of those vintage interior games, kind of like Zach Randolph type of player, if he can end up putting everything together. But this is New York's third pick in the draft. So if you're able to get Killian Hayes, Paul Reed, and Isaiah Stewart all in one draft, I mean, that is A+ work right there. Very solid rookies for New York. Pick number 39, going to be made by the New Orleans Pelicans. They are going with Zeke Naji, who was a teammate of Josh Green, who was selected in the 20s. But he's a big man, strong inside, nice mid-range game, solid rebounder. Kind of the negative on him, though, is his defense. But he has that work ethic to get better. I think he's another nice young asset for the Pelicans. He's getting first-round buzz from some team. So if you can get him in the late 30s, that's really good. Pick number 40, going to be made by the Memphis Grizzlies. Hey, that's my team, and we are going with Cassius Stanley, another Cassius, and another guy from Duke. Super athlete, nice rebounder. He can shoot it all right, but he competes hard, just kind of needs overall improvement in his game. Isn't always going to make the best decisions on the floor, so he's still learning the game, especially at the higher levels. But good value at that 40th pick. Loads of untapped potential with him. And if you saw my Grizz video from about a week ago, Memphis loves Duke guys because they already have Tyus Jones on the team. They already have Grayson Allen, Justice Winslow, so put Cassius Stanley on the floor with those guys and a guy like Ja Morant. That's a really fun team. Pick number 41, going to be made by the San Antonio Spurs. They're going with Emmanuel Quickly. I call him IQ. My wife calls him Manny Quick, but hey, he's more than just cool nicknames. He is 6'3" guy, but almost 7-foot wingspan. Has good defensive potential. Not the biggest guy, but he's just going to straight up compete when he's on the floor. He shot it well from 3. He's got a quick release with the ball. I see him fitting in with the Spurs, not only because they need three-point shooting, but nice defensive player for them. Number 42, going to be made by the New Orleans Pelicans, their 3rd pick in the draft, and they're going with Jay Scrubb. Hopefully he's not a scrub. I mean, he was one of the best junior college players last year. He's an athletic 2-guard, got a good NBA body, 3-and-D kind of player, excels in the open floor. Good value here. I really like his shooting for the Pelicans. Again, like with Tyrell Terry from earlier in the draft, you got to surround Zion with some shooters. Pick number 43, going to be made by the Sacramento Kings, their 3rd pick in the draft, and they're going with Nico Mannion, teammate of Josh Green and Zeke Naji. One of the best passers in this class. His physical dimensions, though, may kind of limit his upside, but Sacramento needs guys to help run the offense behind De'Aaron Fox, and Nico was a really high recruit coming out of high school. I think he has that pro resume and good value in the 40s. Pick number 44, Chicago Bulls pick. They're going with Devin Dotson from KU. This guy's only about 6'2", but he goes hard to the rim. He draws lots of fouls. Just a really, really fast dude. Needs to get a better outside shot, but a fun and exciting player to watch. This is also another guy who's getting looks in the 30s, so we'll have to see what happens with Dotson come draft day. Pick number 45, Orlando Magic. They're going with Tyshawn Alexander from Creighton. Smart player, good shooter who can run a little bit of point, but more of a 2-guard right now. Does a lot of things well on the floor, and another guy to add to that Orlando guard depth. Pick number 46, going to be made by the Portland Trail Blazers, going with Daniel Oturu from the University of Minnesota. He's a big man who took a giant leap as a sophomore, solid athlete, good touch around the basket, rebounds the ball at a high level, good bench piece for Portland, nice value here, and who knows what's going to happen with Hassan Whiteside, so they need some extra guys to back up Yusuf Nurkic. Pick number 47, another Celtics pick, and they are going with Elijah Hughes. He is a straight-up hustle guy. He's a good team player. Doesn't score it especially efficiently when he's on the floor, but a guy who's going to get after it, give you good minutes when he gets into a game. He can really come in and change the tempo of a game with his play. And again, like some of these other Boston picks, they could trade this or let Hughes on as one of their 2-way guys. We'll have to see. Pick number 48, going to be made by the Golden State Warriors, going with Peyton Pritchard. This guy can really shoot it. He's a leader. He's a smart player, and he actually tries on defense. Every team needs players like this. Kind of see him as the modern-day Steve Kerr for the Warriors. You know, I even think I might have him too low because there are several teams in the 30s who like Pritchard's game a lot. Pick number 49, going to be made by the Philadelphia 76ers, going with Yam Madar. So he was actually a teammate of Denny, if I remember correctly, in Israel, but Philly tons of picks, so I think they could go international here, let this pick stay overseas another year or two. He's a 6'3" point guard from Israel, pretty young at 19 years old. Good decision maker with the ball, really nice court vision, good ball handling skills, nice passer, good handle, but sometimes kind of goes for that flashy pass and ends up turning it over. He tries on defense, but Madar does need to add strength to be more effective in defending opponents. He also needs to just kind of improve his overall defensive presence on the floor. But yeah, he's one of those guys who can stay overseas for a bit and continue to hopefully improve. Pick number 50, the Atlanta Hawks, their 2nd pick of the draft, and they are going with Kenyon Martin Jr. This is Kenyon Martin's son, KJ. Remember, his dad was picked number 1 back in 2000, had that nice career with New Jersey, Denver, not so nice career with the Clippers, but KJ committed to Vanderbilt, but ended up doing a postgraduate year of high school, and he just dominated. He was a man among boys at the high school level. He was a force around the rim on both ends, just scored at will, swatted shots, rebounded everything in sight. I mean, you got to check out his YouTube highlights. He also showed key growth as a shooter, passer, and ball handler, so I think he's worth a shot in the 50s for the Hawks. Pick number 51, going to be made by the Golden State Warriors, their third pick of the draft, going with Jordan Nwora. And he scores lots of points, maybe not always the most efficient, not much of a passer either, maybe kind of a bit of a chucker, but his defense is solid when he's on the ball. Golden State is going to have some spots to fill off their roster, so maybe he can make it as that 14th or 15th man, or maybe one of their two-way guys that they can develop for down the line. Pick number 52, Sacramento Kings, their fourth pick of the draft, going with Caleb Wesson from the Ohio State University. He's a late bloomer, and he's a big dude who can rebound and stretch the floor. He's got nice pick and pop potential with his game, good basketball IQ, solid role player down the line, and he also just lost 20 pounds and is in the best shape of his life. Another guy for the front court in Sacramento. Pick number 53, going to be made by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are going with Kentucky's Ashton Hagans. He's a point guard, big-time court vision, awesome perimeter defender too, really good handle, pretty quick on the court. A little on the thin side, doesn't have elite athleticism or length. He needs more shooting consistency too, but slot him in the league, see what he's got. Again, another asset for the Thunder. Pick number 54, Indiana Pacers are selecting Udoka Azubuike from Kansas. This guy is built like a young Shaq, 7'7" wingspan, 7 feet tall, like 270 pounds. He even shoots free throws like Shaq does. That's about where the similarities stop. He's not going to score a ton, even though he's got really good field goal percentage. You're just not going to pass him the ball a whole lot. Maybe he gets a putback off a rebound every now and then, but you have him in there on a playoff series, let him wear down the opposing center while your starter gets a breather. So good 14th man for a team to have on their roster. Pick number 55, Brooklyn Nets are going with Skylar Mays from LSU. So this is the type of guy who's one of those tweeners in between the 1 and the 2 spot, but he's got a good handle. He can really get hot quick as a scorer and light it up. That's kind of where he's focused on, more offense than defense right now, but maybe making that into the bench on the roster. Nets can afford to bring him along slowly. Anybody the Nets pick in this draft isn't going to play a ton because they are competing to win next season. Pick number 56, going to be made by the Charlotte Hornets. They are going with Reggie Perry, who was a teammate of Robert Woodard II out of Mississippi State. He could end up being a nice player, doesn't need to improve his overall game, though, especially in the shooting area. And as I said, he's from Mississippi State. Starkville's a fun town. I used to live there. Got to put him on the list. Pick number 57, going to be made by the Los Angeles Clippers. They are going with Nick Richards. Another Kentucky guy, I think the 4th one I've got here in the draft. But he's a high-energy big guy who scores it, rebounds it, blocks some shots. Kind of reminds me of a Willie Cauley-Stein a little bit. Doesn't have much of a jumper, not too much in the way of playmaking skills. But he can be a third-string center somewhere. Maybe he makes that Clippers roster. These next 3 picks are making their first appearance in the mock draft. 58 going to be made by the 76ers, and they are going with Abdoulaye Ndoye. He's another player that they can stash overseas. Big point guard from France, 6'6", with a massive 7'2" wingspan. Really good upside as a defender, but still a little bit unpolished offensively. He can guard 1 through 3, can run a team, but the offense, yeah, still a question mark. Kind of getting Frank Ntilikina vibes from him for sure. Pick number 59, Toronto Raptors are going with Mason Jones. And if you want a guy who can shoot some threes, then Jones might be a guy you want to take a look at. Really doesn't do a whole lot else right now, but just shooting in general is great because he could be a 50, 40, 90 guy one day. Still a work in progress in other parts of his game. Definitely needs to defend better, but maybe get him in that 905 G League affiliate and see what he can do. Pick number 60, going to be made by the New Orleans Pelicans. They are going with Paul Abois, another international player who could maybe be stashed overseas a couple years. But he's one of those guys, raw athlete, good NBA frame, does the dirty work. He can rebound, he can defend, he can run the floor hard. This is New Orleans' 4th pick. Maybe take a flyer on him. Let him develop overseas for a year or two more. So that's going to do it for the mock draft. Some guys that I didn't include who we may end up seeing on draft night. Players like Marcus Howard, Kareem Manet, Grant Riller. I know there's a lot of fans on this channel who like Grant Riller. Sam Merrill is a guy who I like, but I didn't include in this draft. Josh Hall is a guy who came straight from high school, who took that post-grad year like Kenyon Martin Jr. did. I don't have him included on here, but he could end up sneaking into this draft. You know, anyway, lots can happen when you have an NBA draft. That's why they're so fun to do. But guys, if you made it this far, then you are a true NBA draft fiend like I am, or maybe you're just a fiend in general. But anyway, if you made it this far, you got to comment, me likey the draft. Comment me likey the draft. Let's see how many we can get in the comments. You know, just let me know that you've watched this far, and just because I think it would be kind of funny just for a bunch of people to comment me likey the draft. So, I don't know. But yeah, if it's your first time here, make sure you sub to the channel. I do videos like this several times a week. We're on the road to, and when I say we, I mean me. I'm the only one doing this channel, but I'm on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Hoping to get that maybe by the end of the month. That would be great. Once I get that 10K, I'm going to do a Q&A. So make sure you drop your comments down in this video, and I'm going to be promoting and teasing that as I get into other videos too. But I'm collecting some questions for my 10K Q&A. So I'm collecting questions for my 10K Q&A, but I got to get to 10K first. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video too if you've enjoyed this type of content. Well, hey, that's all I've got for you today. Looking forward to the draft on Wednesday. Remember, if I get those 2,000 likes, I'll see you the next day, and I will do draft grades for every team and break down every pick. That'll be a lot of work, but it'll be a lot of fun. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Once again, I'm Troy. This is the Half Court Report, and I'll see you next time.